We're going to go ahead and get started. Nice to see everybody today. Thanks for joining us. So we have a lot of new to me faces. I wasn't able to participate on video last month, so it's nice to see this group expanding to our president-elect. So just a few kind of beginning things. If you would mute your microphones unless you're planning to speak, that helps a lot. If you want to add something to the conversation, feel free to unmute yourself. You can also put information or questions in the chat as well. This is an opportunity to share ideas. It started because of COVID, and it's kind of advanced into other topics as well, and has really become a place for this brain trust, if you will, to share information about running our chapter as well. So we are recording this session, and we will share a link for those people that are unable to attend, or if you'd like to go back and review that information. We're going to start off with some discussion topics that a couple of presidents have sent in for discussion, and then we'll open it up for any other topics. So the first one I have today is talking about our staff and what kind of benefits are offered to chapter executive directors and staff. So anybody want to kick us off with what you offer? Don't make me pick on somebody.
Okay.
Hi, this is Jenny with Smith Management and CAI Heartland chapter.
Hi, Jenny.
Hi, sorry I'm not on video right now. I will be shortly. I'm having some camera issues.
No worries.
With our CED and you know, Kathy Roth Johnson is our CED. We she is actually not an employee of our chapter, but she is a independent contractor. So we still provide the ability for her, you know, we pay her a set salary or a set amount that she usually we agreed upon monthly. And then, you know, with
and
her—
that's for health insurance, Jenny?
For her health insurance, since she's self-employed, she again takes care of all of that on her own.
Okay.
As a 1099 self-employed contractor. So that's how we offer that, you know, through us. But if she needs to have sick time or take time off or anything like that, we just have worked out a set amount per month that she makes with our chapter. And we don't, you know, correlate that with an hourly rate or anything of that nature.
Okay, got it, great. By raise of hands, either physically your hand or with the reaction buttons, bless you. How many of you offer health insurance for your CED? Okay, we have a lot of people not on camera, so I can't get a good read. Okay. A few people, okay. Does anybody offer a 401k or any kind of retirement plan? I feel like I have the same 3 people up. Okay. Anybody offer dental insurance? Oh, Illinois, okay. Oh, and is that LA? Alexandria is LA, I think. Okay, are there any other types of benefits you all offer, or any, are you offering, for those of you who offer health insurance or any kind of insurance, do you cover it in full or in part? Ed, did you have something you want to say? Is your hand still just up from the previous question?
No, that's a new hand. Hi.
Okay, go ahead with your new hand.
We have, you know, one full-time employee, that being our wonderful CED. And in addition to salary and health insurance, she is provided a certain number of paid vacation days.
Okay. Do you pay for her full insurance? Is it 100%?
I'm not sure about the percentage on that, so.
Okay. All right. Any other benefits? Go ahead.
So Crystal, we our ED did not require health insurance due to a partner's position. So we were able to negotiate in lieu of that a vehicle allowance, which was tied into the total compensation package, which was good for both parties from a payroll tax standpoint. And it's a set monthly stipend, and that was negotiated as part of the annual package. So a little different twist in lieu of health insurance.
I like that idea. That's a great idea.
Well, especially in our situation now where we travel between two sites, two locations.
Well, I'm sure for the chapter, it's less expensive than paying mileage.
Yes, it
if
is.
you just have a set allowance, but it also, it probably evens out over time for your executive director.
Yeah, we're good with it. It was a good fit for both sides.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Troy, did you have something you wanted to add?
Yes, I'm curious, Ed, you said you only have the CED, but you're able to offer insurance. How did you find a policy for such a small group, or anybody else who wants to chime in on that?
We have the benefit of having insurance people on the board who know all these things pretty well. So we have many hands contributing in many ways, and people are just wonderful with contributing. So when it comes to working out these employment things, we have attorneys that are able to look at employment agreements and any other agreements. Not that they take the place of employing actual professionals, that should never be the case, but we have a lot of common sense and world experience that we draw on. And to find a source for health insurance, we have insurance people.
One of the ways that you can help fund an employee's health benefits is to, and I have a peer in the industry down the road here that has a very aggressive health savings account for their employees, which is a direct cost, but to the employee, a health savings account, not a HSA, a medical savings account. It's the one that can roll over each year. That's something that we as an organisation could look out for our EDs. It can be a direct contribution into that account, and then that helps offset any possible maybe out-of-pocket deductibles. Just another way to negotiate a benefit, especially when you're in a small group or you only have one employee. They may go out, you may find that you get and you can write policies. Typically, they're reasonably high premiums and high deductibles when you get rated with one, which, Crystal, I think at some point maybe as an industry for the communities and then the LSMs and the chapters that have, that under 10. Once you have under 10, you're in big problems.
Yep, definitely. And we have looked at that before from a chapter standpoint. And what we found, we looked at it pre Affordable Health Care Act and also post Affordable Health Care Act. And the cost was still not, the cost would be the same or higher than if you went through the open market, program through the Affordable Care Act. So unfortunately, we weren't able to do anything that made sense, but we know this is a struggle, particularly with healthcare for chapters, because, everybody wants healthcare as a benefit.
Yep.
Any other comments from anybody on that item? I don't know that we gave a lot of extra guidance on that one, but hopefully a few ideas for some alternatives there.
I guess, Crystal, one other thing.
Sure.
And I was thinking, well, this goes without saying that, you know, when it comes to conference attendance, you know, we pay for the CED, you know, any fees for admission to a conference or travel expenses related are reimbursed too.
Yeah. We are also, we just last month or the month prior, we sent out our biannual salary survey to our executive directors. It's been 3 years instead of 2 this time because of COVID. We didn't think last year people were necessarily increasing benefits or salaries. So once we have that, we will be sharing that with all of you. We have collected all the data. We're analyzing the data and putting it in a report to share. So for those of you who are looking to change or enhance benefits, that will be a good guide for you as well. And that I expect that probably within the next 30 days, hopefully. So definitely in time for a lot of you, I know, do kind of year-end review and planning for your budget, et cetera. So it's a good time to be looking at that.
Crystal, I think there's a couple, maybe, I don't want to say hidden benefits, but you know, to keep a ED or employees happy, we could look at, you know, some days of telecommuting now that the Zoom platform has been totally enhanced. Some employees find that attractive. I have a number of them that are 50-50 in the office and 50-50 from home, especially if they have young children. The other platform that we look at is during our non-peak season is to look at some flex time, either 4/10s as opposed to 5/8s. The 3-day weekend seems to be attractive. So there's some things in addition to just a number crunching that we can do to enhance the sustainability of keeping our employees. And our employees are a tremendous, as we know, a tremendous asset.
Absolutely. And sometimes just simple things like, you know, ordering lunch for the staff. And even if it's just one person, you know, sending them a, you know, Uber Eats gift card or something like that, just to let them know they're appreciated. Those little inexpensive things go a long way in keeping them. And, you know, I mean, it's easier for the chapters, it's easier for us, it's better for our members, you know, if we keep these wonderful CEDs in place year over year. So any ideas you guys have, we can continue that discussion in the exchange. All of you are linked into a online platform, our exchange group. There's a special group for chapter presidents and president-elects. So if you have ideas, that's another place to share information when we're not on these calls. All right, our next topic, social media. So a few years ago, we all ran out and chapters got Facebook accounts and Twitter accounts and LinkedIn accounts, and everybody, it seems, they're trying to find the best platform that works for their members. Some chapters have been more successful with one thing or another, but some a president had asked, do you find that one platform works better for your manager members, or a different platform, or perhaps the same platform works well for your homeowner leaders? Well, I can tell you for us, Facebook tends to be the preferred on the national level. LinkedIn has a larger group of people, but the engagement is higher on Facebook for members.
Crystal, this is Alexandria from the Greater Los Angeles chapter.
Hi, Alexandria.
Hi, everyone. So you asked kind of a loaded question because we are struggling to track our engagement on each of our platform by member type. So we're actually in the process of revising our website and taking a hard look at an app that we had developed and possibly changing our app. So we'll have the ability to be more efficient, posting to every social media platform at once. And the social media committee that we have is kind of helping along with the board of directors to guide that process. But I think I agree with you. Facebook tends to be the easiest for the masses, but we get a lot of engagement on Instagram as well.
I think, Alexandria, your chapter in particular has some pretty clever campaigns on social media. Would you mind sharing a little bit about what your CED and staff have been able to do? I'm sure with support of the volunteers as well.
We have a fun one right now. We're doing Flat Joan. Our executive director, Joan Urbaniak, is just a delightful lady, and our entire chapter adores her. So we mailed a Flat Joan, similar to Flat Stanley, if any of you have little ones who have done the book Flat Stanley, to some of our top social media posters, and ask them to take Joan with them and take pictures and post to our social media accounts. So that's a current one that we have going now.
They, Joan and her assistant in the office, Andrea, also do a bunch of really cute, fun, short videos.
Yes,
that are super clever, TikToks. So if I've said this before, if you're not following the Greater LA chapter on social media, you're missing out. Like, they're so fun. They make my day, especially late on Friday afternoons when they post fun ones. So, so you might want to do that. That's been, I assume, Alexandra, have you seen a boost in people participating because of some of those fun activities you guys have initiated?
Our members are pretty engaged, so I don't necessarily think we've seen a boost. I think when COVID first hit, we saw a bit more engagement on our social media platforms because everyone was trying to find a way to connect. Now people are sort of doing the opposite. Everyone's really tired of it, but we've seen really consistent engagement. And every time we do something fun, we get a pretty solid likes and follows and shares. So we're really trying to boost our shares now to reach out into the community at large, not just engaging our members, but engaging prospective members, specifically board members.
Yeah, absolutely. That to me seems like the biggest struggle. Like, it's, you know, when we put stuff out on social media, a lot of times I feel like it might be kind of preaching to the choir, if you will, to use an analogy, because it's all members. And how do we capture the general public that can benefit from some of the content that we're posting? Anybody come up with that magic, Phil?
Hashtags. That's really what I can suggest. Coming up with the
good.
right hashtag to make sure you're reaching your target audience.
Great. Thank you, Alexandria. Other comments on social media, what you're using, what's working well for you?
Yeah, so this is Jenny again with the Heartland chapter. So Kathy has set up a platform, Heart to Heart, our CED, and she's doing heart-to-heart videos with, she started with each of the individual board leaders on our board of directors, and then she branched out to CEOs and of management companies and managers and business partners. And it is just really well received. It's great because it really allows everyone to engage with each other, and then they're uploaded on YouTube. And you know, it's funny because, you know, people will comment or shoot an email out to somebody when it's released, you know, oh, your favorite color is blue, or, you know, joking around with them, or like she'll do something where like they have to pick a number between 1 and 3, and then either they have to you know, tell their spirit animal, or you know, tell their you know, something that somebody doesn't know about them, or do a drawing of something. You know, she'll randomly say, you know, draw a giraffe, or they like to play golf a lot, she'll say, you know, draw a putter or something like that. So it's really kind of neat. We've been doing that since I think the end of April or early May, I think is when we started kicking it off. It was right around May, the beginning of May. So that's worked really well and really well received.
Great. Thank you for sharing that, Jenny. Brian, I have a question for you. In Illinois, and I'm going to get the name wrong, what's your mascot? And does that mascot make an appearance on social media still?
That was like, this is like a bar trivia quiz. I cannot remember that mascot's name for the life of me right now.
It's a little troll character with, you know, the hair that, and I can't think of it right now.
I can't. Yes, but the mascot, geez, this is embarrassing. Yes, it does make an
Sorry.
appearance at the conference and expo that we do each year. So whoever is the newest member of the team, or at least the shortest volunteer, we'll put them in that costume and make them walk around the vendor floor. But with COVID, we haven't had the opportunity to haze
Do
anyone.
they show up on social media though? That I was just thinking that might be an interesting way, kind of like the flat Joan concept.
You know, I don't think so. Not lately, but maybe if we could Photoshop him traveling around since we're all on lockdown. That
Yeah,
might be a way to
Trooper, the community trooper. Amber, is that is that the Illinois one, or is that a San Diego one?
That's the Illinois one. That's what Google says.
Oh, that's what Google says. Okay, thanks, Amber. That does sound right, Cooper. Okay.
Thank you for the quick
The
Google
assist.
on it.
All right. Any other comments on social media? Okay. All right. Chapter volunteers. So a chapter had shared with me that they had instituted, instead of a nominating committee, a board development committee to help assist in recruiting chapter leaders for chair positions and board, et cetera, and wanted to hear what other chapters are doing. How do you find the best candidates for your board, for your committee chairs? Do you have any kind of mentoring or succession planning? This is something I think all chapters could use some hints from time to time, so feel free to share.
This is something actually we're working on in the Minnesota chapter. I think when I try and tell the board members, like, look, every year we come up to the same thing of, we don't know who's going to be nominated. And yet everybody in this room knows 5 people that would make great board members. It's just like no one takes that initiative to groom them and to kind of set that field for them. So that was one of our strategic goals in the Minnesota chapter going into this year, was being intentional about having a summertime at one of our summer board meetings to have a succession planning candidate nominating allotted time that, we say, okay, we're going to focus right now. You're actually going to do the legwork to not just think of, oh yeah, these people would make great members, but to actually ask them and help us be positioned. So it's just one of our goals this year.
Great. Alexandria?
Josh just made a really good point about asking people. I found this year I really wanted to try something new with my committee specifically. The board's kind of another discussion altogether. But we have 15 committees now, and I surveyed every committee chair and then every committee member separately, asking a couple of questions. 1, do you still want to be a chair of this committee? 2, do you want to be a chair of a different committee? 3, do you want to serve on other committees? And 4, for those chairs that no longer want to serve, who do you think would be a good successor when you step down? Because I find that our committee chair specifically, it's the same group of people and they have a lot of work on their plate and they're getting really burned out. And I was actually really surprised at a lot of the feedback I got. People who I just expected would want to continue to serve really wanted to step down. And I think that was an important aha moment for me.
Great. In the chat, someone's asking you to give those questions again. Would you mind putting those in the chat for us, Alexandria?
Of course.
That way people can copy them if they would like to use those. Thank you for sharing.
Alexandria, we did something similar, which we called kind of a volunteer recommitment survey. So it was also about kind of reestablishing some expectations, attendance at those meetings, participation in the events, that sort of thing. And those same questions that you asked about, are you interested in continuing? Do you have a different area you'd prefer to volunteer in, just so people felt like they had some movement? But I love that last question about if you were to step down, who would follow you? That's a really great way to gauge that.
Crystal? Yeah,
Yeah.
Chair. I'd like to comment that I think this is an issue that I'd like to see our chapter take on with a little more purpose and organization. There is a book that I read on recommendation from a fellow board member called Boards That Make a Difference by Carver. And it's a wonderful read. It's easy to understand, but one of the principles that Carver espouses is that it is the duty of the board to plan for its succession. And when I look at the Michigan chapter, I don't think we've done that. I think that there would be a benefit to taking a good organized look at that. Our board terms start July 1st. And so this past term, we had something highly unusual happen, and that was we had a board election. We actually had a contested spot, and I don't think we ever had before, which kind of says that I guess a lot of the succession just kind of happens with some degree of informality and not a lot of planning. You kind of hope that people will continue to serve, and in that way, maybe become over dependent on them. And it doesn't help, I think, foster the appearance of openness. When people say, well, how do you get on that board? You know, I see who's on that board, how they get on there, that sort of thing. And so I think a more disciplined and organized approach to this would be very helpful. And, you know, the idea of like, okay, you know, let's plan for succession. Let's go out and recruit people. And one of the things we have talked about is, you know, people who we think might be good to serve on the chapter board should have experience serving on committees and that sort of thing.
Yeah, I hear that a lot.
But those things have only happened by nomination. And like I said, I don't think there had ever been a contested board position election before this past year, where we had two candidates vying for one opening.
Yeah.
And that worked out fine, but to me, it says something about the process, and I think it's worth a good look in our chapter.
Troy, you had your hand up?
Yeah, to speak to this, my president-elect is on here, and I will tell you that when I found out that I was going to be president and we had a couple board positions, I specifically went out and basically told her she was going to volunteer to serve on the board. She did, and happy to have her, and she's been a great addition. But it is important that you look at who is serving with you, and you know, people that really have the interest of the association in mind more than their political goals. There's a lot of people who applied for being on the board this last go around that they had just joined the chapter within the past year. They hadn't served on any committees. They had done nothing. And I have found through the years, I've served on other boards, national boards, and other national committees within different industries. And the people who really stick around and are active are the ones that have more interest in seeing the association survive than just people who are interested in seeing their career advance because they can say, hey, I was a board member. And that's something that I really encourage you to consider as you're looking for people to serve.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Pilar, thank you for putting the book mentioned in the chat, and you also have your hand up if you want to comment.
I do. So one of the things that I did when I took over my year was we sent out like a survey to the existing board members and also to the committee chairs. We wrote a job description, so to speak, for each of the committees. And then we listed the roles and responsibilities, the goals. We asked them for their feedback And then we list all the committee members on that particular sheet. And I'm getting ready to send that out again as kind of like, not mid-year, because I should have done it in June, but in case you don't know, Florida's drowning in COVID right now. So just trying to deal with some other things, but I plan to send that out again, just and do a little quick, how's your year going? What can we do in the last 5 months of the years to meet all of our committee goals? So that was one of the things that we did. And we actually held a meeting with each of the committees and invited the board to participate if they wanted to. And we also have a board liaison for each committee. So that's some of the things that we've done.
Great. Clint, I'm going to put you on the spot now. And if you don't have all this information, that's fine. But I know Coachella Valley has a succession plan in place. Do you is that something that you feel comfortable sharing?
Sure, I'll share as much as I know. Which,
okay, perfect.
So being president-elect, but really what we've done already this year, I've already met with the existing president, the past president, our executive director, with all the committee rosters with the chairs, co-chairs, and the members. And we've looked at who we can move from the hardworking committee members to the co-chair and eventually into a chair role. And then from the chair to the board, because we do have a requirement, you have to serve as a chair of a committee before you can actually be elected to the board. And then so we do that with that small group. And then when we're done with that, we take those names that we sort of identify as future leaders, and we have an executive committee, and we kind of hash it out at the executive committee level. And then we either the current president or the incoming president will reach out to those people and say, hey, have you thought about serving as a chair, and with the long-term thought of being on the board? And so we kind of set them up like, hey, in 2 or 3 years, this is kind of where we're looking. So that is really helpful, because it's helpful as the incoming president to know sort of who the players are going to be and who we really want to be, or who we see that put the effort in that'll help grow the chapter and continue on the work that's been done so far. So that's been very, very helpful.
Great.
And we also survey, to the other point, we survey the committee chairs and co-chairs and saying, do you want to stay in this position, or do you have people identified from your committee that could step in? And so we kind of work with the chairs and as well in that process.
And in Clint's chapter in Coachella Valley out in Palm Springs, California, they previously, I've been working with that chapter for quite some time. Previously, this kind of plan was not in place. And I can tell you what I saw, a decade ago, was the same people kind of recycling through the board and the committees and whatnot. And now going to the chapter, yeah, there still are some people that have been around and maybe they've moved around because of these conversations, but there's a lot of fresh faces. And so really putting a plan in place like this really can impact the chapter in a positive way. Brian, Illinois, I know, has also done quite a bit of work with volunteers. Are you comfortable sharing?
Just in how we've used them this past?
Well, like some of your training, like you've done some committee training and board training.
Yeah, we have a volunteer committee, really, a volunteer commission that's really focused on making sure that we have the right outreach to volunteers, that we're properly placing them within the chapter and the overall hierarchy. We bring our chapter or our committee leads together once a year to kind of talk through expectations, which then gets filtered down to the volunteers. And we incentivize folks to participate and get involved outside of their own companies. We have some people that come all from the same company. They all kind of volunteer for the same committee. So we try and spread them throughout the organization as best we can so they get to meet and network with other people.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I did put in the chat a link to the chapter toolkit, which has some board and committee resources. I don't know that we have anything specific on succession planning, but if anybody has or develops any kind of thing, we'd love to add that. That's something that we should definitely include on there. Any other, I have another question. Somebody, I think it was Ed, that mentioned that you hadn't had a contested election. I know there's some chapters that always have a contested election. And how does, for those of you, Lauren, you're smiling, and I want to say New Jersey had a contested election recently that had a ton of people running. Am I right?
We had 4 openings and 11 people running for them.
Okay.
Yep.
So how does that work for those of you who generally don't have a contested election? How do you get that many people excited to run for the board? And then how do you make sure you get the best people out of those 11?
It's an interesting process. So we have a nominating committee in New Jersey, and it's made up of 5 people. The current president appoints the 5 people who are made up of each of the 3 membership groups. And the past president is the chair, the president-elect is also on, and then from there, it has to be a mix evenly or within 5 of each of the 3 membership groups. So like last year, I was on it, the past president had chaired it, and we had 2 managers and a homeowner leader. And, you know, in New Jersey, we kind of have the opposite of what some of you all have been talking about. We have people that have been, you know, anxious to get on our board, and some of whom have put in, you know, multiple years, and that gets kind of sticky because you know them, you know, from the industry, obviously. So we just go through it, you know, as a nominating committee, and we have interviews. It was, you know, with 11 people, it was quite a process. It took us a week to get through all the interviews. And at the end of the day, the nominating committee makes the decision, and we put it, you know, first, you know, we'll let the board know, but then we do have a process where it goes out to the membership. You know, the card goes out to everybody. Unless anybody objects, then the slate officially gets voted on and adopted at our annual meeting, which is held usually in early December of each year. And then those terms start on January 1st of the following year. Okay. It's not easy. It's not easy.
It's a lot of work.
Not only that, it's not easy to select. And then once you do select, it's not easy from that. You know, New Jersey, we might be a little bit of a different animal than elsewhere, because then you get, well, why wasn't this one selected? Why wasn't that one put on? And you know, this year, one of the things we really focused on in terms of the makeup of the board, you know, we knew going into 2021 from 2020 that we were going to have certain issues. So we knew, for example, we kind of thought in our minds we wanted at least 1 attorney, for example. Because normally we've had 2 attorneys on the board at any given time. I'm going off at the end of this year. So with that in mind, you know, we always have liked the idea of having at least 1 attorney on the board, because things are coming up, decisions have to be made. We also had an insurance professional, again, knowing the issues that were coming up in 2021. For example, you know, one of the big things we've had to deal with in our contracts and our vendor contracts, you know, these in-person events, are the force majeure clauses. We got interesting debates with some of our vendors, you know, some of the halls, let's say, you know, what happens if we can't have something, you know, and then can we carry the funds over? Do we forfeit the funds? And some of them were interesting negotiations. So we knew we had to have people on our board, so we didn't necessarily, so it kind of all went into that process. But this year was interesting. Next year we only have 1 person up, so hopefully 1 seat. So hopefully it'll be a little bit easier. We'll see.
But I like one thing that you said is that there was a plan of what you needed. And so that way you can articulate to the people that didn't get chosen, this is what we were looking for. Or when you go out initially, you can say there will be a focus on X. You know, like some people talk about requirement of serving on a committee or being a chair, et cetera. The more you can articulate those qualifications up front and what you're looking for, the less conflict you hopefully have. You know, if you do have a contested election.
We had that, Crystal. We actually had that because we have in New Jersey so many people who want to be on committees, who want to be involved. So the people running, I think by and large, were either on the committee or even chairs of their committees also, or had been prior chairs. So we have a big depth here in New Jersey.
That's awesome. Great.
Crystal, can I comment on that actually?
Of course. Go ahead, Robert.
So it's interesting to hear the process from other chapters, because in Orange County, in California, because I want to say we're not in Florida, obviously, we just have open elections essentially, and they're almost always contested. I can't remember an election where we didn't have more candidates than we had seats up. And it ends up being honestly a little bit of a popularity contest. And while I would love the concept of being able to say, look, we need, certain types of professionals to fill out fill out those spots on the board, I can't even imagine if we tried to limit somebody from running, what would happen. It would be very difficult for us to try to do that, even though the reality is, and I think we've seen some of the impact of having open elections and the impact of the popularity contest in our chapter over the years, and how sometimes there's a lack of depth, I think, in that.
Absolutely. And I think there's pros and cons to both. I mean, I know Lauren can tell you that there's been comments of, oh, this small group is hand-picking their favorite people. So you don't necessarily get rid of it. It's just a little bit different. But also, like you said, Robert, I came from a chapter that had the same type that Orange County has, where it's an open election. And, I mean, if you have somebody from a large company, they're more likely to get elected than somebody from a smaller company. Sadly, with elections, I don't know that any of us have a perfect answer. But, that's probably why the succession planning and kind of a volunteer leadership development strategy is super important. Okay, awesome. Good discussion. Love it. Okay, are there other things that you came to this call today to talk about or to share? Questions?
Actually, I'd like to throw something out there, and I don't know if other chapters are dealing with this, but it's something I'm very aware of in Southern California. And it's interesting when you mentioned social media, the impact of social media. And one of the things I'm looking at as we come out of COVID is how does CAI make sure it stays relevant? Now, this is obviously a broader than just our chapter, but how do we stay relevant? Because we're seeing a lot of business partners who are developing their own events. They're basically creating their own trade shows where they just set up an event, and they even have tables set up and maybe, different things where they can go and get the manager's attention, and really at a fraction of the cost sometimes of what they're spending on CAI. So I'm curious as to what other chapters if they're dealing with that, and if that's kind of on the radar as to how do we stay relevant as there's a kind of a shifting landscape in terms of that. Great question.
And I think every chapter on here has dealt with that, and we have too. So how do you navigate that?
Well, and how are we going to have to navigate it? Because it's happening more and more, and it's going to impact sponsorship dollars. Is my thought.
Yeah, absolutely. Sponsorship dollars, just awareness, attendance, absolutely.
Hi, this is Jenny again. I guess I need to learn how to raise my hand. I'm sorry.
That's okay. No worries. Go ahead.
Every time I think about doing it, I'm like, oh, where did it go again? I'm on my phone, so I'm sorry.
That's okay.
So we have dealt with that, and we have been dealing with that even before COVID, because we have very active business partners who are always trying to figure out a way to get in front of the managers, whether they're trying to do some sort of ice cream social or they're trying to, just drop off some swag and some donuts or something like that. What we do is we kind of work with the business partners and say, hey, let's do this together. Let's unite, whether it's the president, and the CED going with them, or if it's just the CED, and combining it and talking about different things that we have coming up, whether it might be the participation in a webinar or, our manager reception or the trade show, things like that. And then it's kind of an added benefit for that business partner to combine it with CAI. Therefore, they feel like they're getting some extra value out of our CAI chapter and a little extra love.
That's great. Thank you, Jenny.
Yeah.
Well, one thing I want to clarify, because it's not what we're seeing is not the single business partner who's going out and doing their own marketing. We're seeing business partners group together and create their own events. Sometimes 8 or 9 business partners, they'll create an event and invite managers and basically create their own trade show.
Yeah, so
we're
we had
having that
that a couple-
issue. I mean, we're in Southern California too. We're having that issue too. I mean, we're trying to do a softball event, which vendors have done individually and have been great. And we are struggling on being able to fill the spots for the softball event, which we can't understand because they've been great successes otherwise. And we just can't get the buy-in at the chapter level.
A couple years ago, we had something like that, where we had like 5 or 6 business partners, and they kind of, I wouldn't say the golden group, but they kind of like made themselves like the champion group of business partners. And what happened was we actually had some managers that reached out to other people and had seen them and said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I missed the CAI event last night." And we were like, "What CAI event? What are you talking about?" So that's why we kind of really went to those business partners and then just, tried to work with them. We came up with some additional sponsorships and love for them, calling them the champions or the diamond sponsors or, the silver and the bronze sponsors, things like that. And then we gave them an opportunity to pay a little more with advertising, but give them a little more input and involvement in the chapter and with the members. And that seemed to kind of put an end to it a little bit, so far for us anyway.
Okay. Kevin, you had your hand up before. Did you have something you wanted to add?
Yeah, our issue is a little bit different than what we've heard so far. We have a minimal number of management companies in Central Indiana, and the largest one started scheduling almost identical events to CAI on the same night or a night away from us. And they had always been the largest contributor to the CAI. And they had always had the largest contingent come with their managers and with their board members, and they just stopped coming. And so I had to meet with them and find out. Really, it felt like I went to a grievance meeting because I had to find out why they were doing what they were doing, which it wasn't extremely uncommon for this kind of behavior anyway. But they just didn't feel like they had the representation that the others had within the CAI governing board, and they didn't feel like they were getting the speaking opportunities that they should. And so we didn't feel the same, but we did, start rotating them in a little bit heavier to the rotation of speakers. And what was funny is they do have representation. They have committee members and they have a member on the board. So I didn't really understand what that was about, but we started giving them speaking opportunities, and they're kind of filtering people back in. But I don't think they're going to stop trying to compete with CAI because they have that ability. Because really, when it comes to players in this area, there's only about 5 of us, and so it's a little bit tighter. So that's kind of what our experience with. I mean, our vendors begged to come to CAI stuff. We're doing our first ever golf outing this year, and we sold out the sponsorships and had to create more and had to create more and had to create more. So that wasn't the issue. Our problem is getting enough golfers at this point. So hopefully, cross our fingers, it'll be a success.
Well, I think that's what it comes down to, right? Is making sure that partnership between your chapter and your business partners is strong, because I think it's really easy for us to, in January, they sign up for whatever level they want to be a business partner, and then let the course of the year play out, right, with their sponsorships. But as one thing we've done the last 2 or 3 years is been really intentional about keeping in touch with the business partners throughout the year. To Kevin, to your point, just to hear them, what are your wants and what are your needs? Where are we coming up short? What else can we do? Just so that relationship is always strong, and not just in January when they sign up. I'll say one other specific thing that we have a hard time with, or I'm starting to see, is education sessions. I mean, it's so easy for any business partner to throw together a 45-minute lunch and learn presentation and then take away from the lunch and learn programming that we provide through CAI. And we started noticing that a couple of years ago, actually. So one of the ideas we did to combat that was, and I was very against this at first, but I came around to it and it worked, is on our first 2 levels of sponsorship as a part of the high sponsorship level. As a part of that, you'll have a CAI education event. It's your event, but CAI will help with the marketing, will help find a speaker, like whatever you want. It's your event, but it's a partnership with CAI, and it got warm feedback, and it just helps again to combat. It's so easy for business partners to do their own lunch and learns, which takes away from ours, right?
Yeah, but you can capitalize on the expertise you have for actually putting together an event, because the content is one thing and the actual logistics are another.
Right. And then the business
Heather,
partner was proud because, you know, it's their thing. Right?
Yeah. Heather, you've been patiently waiting. Please go ahead.
Well, I just, and this wasn't by no means a strategy, but we kind of fell into this position here where our managers, the entire area, were just exhausted from being approached and from the constant offers of lunch and learns and constant emails for different outside of CAI seminars. And we talked and we all just kind of decided, let's stop all this outside. If there is a webinar that comes across my desk that I really think I'll benefit from, I'll attend, and we all kind of do the same thing. But as a whole, our vendors know they can see us at the monthly luncheons. They can see us at these events, and they're really not seeing us elsewhere anymore because we're tired.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Melanie.
No, I was just going to kind of piggyback off of what Josh said. When I'm listening to all of this, and this has been on in the back of my mind for a long time, I think why, and having conversations with business partners, why are they doing that? And I think it's really more the one-on-one, right? I'm not at an event where 3 people are sponsoring because they're this platinum sponsors and I get 5 minutes to speak, right? It's having that one-on-one time. And I don't think that that's a bad thing for them to want to do or have to do to develop that relationship a little bit further than, hi, I'm so-and-so from painting company. So I really liked the idea of what Josh said, where maybe there's more, we think about doing individualized events. So assigning a particular vendor to those smaller educational events and it just being one. So they feel like I'm the only person here that people are focused on, and they're not worried about talking to somebody else that they know or an obligation to another vendor standing over there or whatnot. So I like that idea, Josh.
Great. Thank you for sharing, Melanie. Troy.
I want to ask Heather to come here to Florida and talk to the managers here, and please get them to do that. If you can't notice by my background, I am a business partner. And I do have one group that I am involved with that is doing exactly what you're talking about. There's about 9 of us. Most of the time we do board presentation or panel presentations, if you will, not actually CEU classes, but occasionally we do. But I have to tell you right now, I cover 2 different areas that CAI West, I don't think there's anybody on here representing them. And then CAI South Gulf Coast. You know, I will tell you that there are so many competitive organizations, yet both of our chapters are still thriving and growing because we try to offer, you know, if you were to talk to our CED, we don't just look for any presentation. We look for the people that are the best in their professions and have the best classes and are the best presenters. We're trying to be the professionals, not, you know, the professionals in offering education. That's what we are focused on entirely. And so far, we're still doing okay. I think better than okay. We have, you know, just off the top of my head, I can tell you there's Community Association Network Group. There is a Business International group that says they specialize in property managers. COMA specifically, I heard somebody else saying that, you know, a management company broke off. COMA is the Community Association and Manager or Community I can't even remember, Coma. They have 2 chapters. They're the party company, or the party networking group. They're all about drinking and sharing things. You know, I could go on. There's probably 4 more different organizations we compete against, in addition to the business partners that have gotten together. So it's not going to go away, Robert. I hate to tell you, it may get worse. What you have to do is focus on what you do best and let your members know what you do best, and prospective members what you do best, and just keep it that way, because we did try to have more networking events that were more fun. That's not what our managers are looking for. Some of them are, we're getting younger ones in, but most of them are interested in the quality education that we offer. So that's what we focus on.
Great, thank you for sharing, Troy. Nicole.
Hello. Yeah, to back up his point, I think it's the quality of the education. Instead of it just being the, a reserve study is blah, blah, blah. We have to take it to a much different level, if at all possible. I think that that's going to bring that different bit of value, because people are doing their online webinars. They're providing credits for free from the comfort of people's homes. And it's a challenge that I think it's just the tip of the iceberg at the moment. And I too am guilty of throwing events without CAI involvement, and it's because it boils down to bang for your buck. If I pay $750 for a napkin sponsorship and people are just going to see my logo on a napkin versus paying $1,500 and having a a really nice event as part of my contribution, it's hard to justify the cost for some of the sponsorships. And I think that bringing the value to the sponsorships is huge. But also, if one thing that with these little events that you kind of think about is CAI really only attracts a small amount of the managers that are in the area and a small amount of the business partners that are in the area. So if these other events that people are doing are drawing in different people and catching different people's interest, then maybe CAI, the local chapters being involved in it, coming and doing an announcement, helping to get the credits approved, and making sure that set up a table with the education information, see if you can sell memberships there. Because I know when we do our events, we promote CAI like crazy. We want people to be a part of it, but CAI can only reach so many people. So I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing. I think we just had to figure out how to work in conjunction, because we have to be careful not to upset our business partners too. In one chapter, I know some business partners were doing this. They're all top level sponsors, and they got a really hard time from the chapter, and it turned all of them off to the point where they're not sure if next year they're going to continue their level of sponsorship. So I think we have to look at it in a couple of different ways.
This is a great conversation. And for those of you who are attending conference in person, I hope we can find a time in the lounge to continue this conversation, and maybe we even continue it on our call next month, because I think it's super important to really look at that value. Nicole made some really valid points, like, where am I getting my biggest bang for our buck? And then I'm thinking, well, how come CAI can't give you a bigger bang for your buck? So, I think, again, this brain trust, if we all come together, we can come up with some really good ideas that may work in some chapters and not in others. But, we can try to swap some ideas a little bit more. I want to be mindful of time. I had this scheduled for 45 minutes and we're already at an hour. And we really appreciate everybody's participation. Like I said, I'll hopefully see some of you. I know I'll see some of you next week in Las Vegas. Karen and Kelly will be doing a virtual training for those of you who are unable to attend for the president-elect. Presidents are invited to participate in the chapter lounge at conference. We will not have a virtual component there. We did, it was brought up on this call a few months ago that, hey, our presidents never got to meet each other in person at conference. So we want to give you an opportunity to do that. So in our chapter lounge on Thursday from 1:45 to 2:45, we are going to have an ice cream social, and we invite you to come meet each other in person. And we look forward to seeing you there. Any other final comments before we go?
Crystal, can I ask one thing about the President's Lounge? Is there a schedule of topics that are going to be covered, or is it, I just saw that it's just open all day, each day, right? Is there?
It's open all day. We do have a few topics in there. Kelly, I don't think Emily's on the call right now, but I will send it out again in the chapter leader connection this week. What do you think, Kelly?
Yes, and we'll be sending everyone who's registered, whether you're a president, president-elect, or a CED, we will be sending it before you go with kind of a sample agenda. It will be a lot more casual if you've been there in the past. We didn't have as many topics organized because we've heard feedback that people want this to be more casual, more networking, more open communications. So we did try to arrange more for that within the space as well. But even if you don't want to come and talk about one of the topics that we have scheduled, please come, relax. We'll have charging stations, some comfy places to sit and just kind of get away from everything else. So if anything, just make sure you come and stop by and say hi.
Yep, and pick other people's brains while you're there on all these things that you want to talk about. Sharon just put in the chat, please remember to register for the chapter party. Sharon is with the Nevada chapter. They're at Brooklyn Bowl, which is on the promenade outside of the link. It'll be a great fun event. It is a separate ticket, so please sign up and come. Okay, I think that's everything for today. Thank you so much, everybody.
Bye.
How do you register? You can register on our website or also on the Nevada chapter's website as well. And I think you can probably do it on site too, right, Sharon? Yes, on site as well.
Yes, you can. At the chapter, we'll have a table and you can do it right there.
Awesome, awesome. Great, very good. Nice to see you all. Look forward to seeing you soon.
Bye.
Take
See you in
care.
Vegas.
Bye.